care about the same things and want to learn about the same things. So stepping back a little, my name is Sam. I'm 38 years old. I live in rural East Hawaii, which is the area I live in is called Pahoa, and it's most familiar to people because of the giant lava flow that we had a couple years ago. So that is part of my story, and I'll get there. But I'm going to go back a long, long time, over 30 years, to the beginning where the story really begins. And that's when I was just a little girl. I was 7 years old. I was full of anxiety. And my parents kept me really active. I played tennis and I played softball and I played basketball and I loved being busy. And so, for the most part, aloha, for the most part, I didn't feel that anxiety. And around age 7, it started peaking because things weren't going well at school and I was nervous and I didn't want to go. And I started really exhibiting behaviors um, of severe anxiety. And I would actually make myself sick in the morning so that my parents would think that I was sick and I couldn't go to school. Um, and a, a little aside, I was being raised by mom, a dietitian, and dad, an advertising executive who was making ads for the likes of Hostess and Tombstone Pizza at that time. So it's just an interesting overarching theme of the good and evil of food from the very beginning. So I started exhibiting extreme anxiety, and that's when my mom first took me to therapy at 7. And I didn't need to take meds then. It was like play therapy and all of that, and it got me through actually the next several years. Whether it was bolstering my confidence or building my self-esteem somehow, whatever it was, I got the tools I needed then to be able to move forward with some level of confidence in my elementary years. And then around 12, I was playing basketball and I fell and broke my wrist for the very first time. And seemed like no big deal. I got a cast, couldn't do the things I love to do for 6 weeks, but it was no big deal. Life went on until about 6 months later when my wrist broke again. And it was like, okay, well, maybe it was just not healed all the way. It's no big deal. No sports for a little bit, and we'll just go with it. Okay, got the cast off, started living again, and it wasn't even 6 months before it broke again. And that one was notably on Friday the 13th. And I was at a synagogue retreat on a Friday night. I've broken my arm, and the rabbi had to drive me to the synagogue or to the hospital on Shabbos, which is like totally forbidden. Obviously, in emergencies, you can drive, but it was just like one of those things that, the troublemaker. So I was about a little over 13 then. And we found out that I had this chronic wrist condition and my wrist kept breaking. And they couldn't operate on it because I was too young and it was too close to the growth plate. So that was sort of the beginning of a very, very hard time in my life. I was casted from my fingertips to my shoulder. And I didn't know then that the exercise was my outlet for my anxiety. I just knew that I started feeling really bad when my arm broke and kept breaking. And so my mom brought me back to therapy. And that was when I started taking meds for the first time. I was put on an antidepressant, of course, at the smallest dose. And then the dose increased, and then they switched to a different one. And I went through all the trials and tribulations of symptoms and switching meds. And it was a pretty miserable time. And adolescence is a pretty miserable time for a lot of people to begin with. So it was very, very rough. And being an adolescent who was constantly unable to care for herself, I needed help doing so many things without my hands. So that all progressed, and I finally, after I think it was about 3 years of broken arms, that I said, "Hey, Mom, maybe I should try soccer. I don't need my arms for that." So, broken arm and all, went out for the soccer team. And in my first season of like real soccer games, it was in the first month that I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing, but somehow, slide tackling was safe and they taught us how to do it right. But the way did it, the girl that I was slide tackling the ball away from landed on top of me and broke my ankle. So now here I am with a broken arm and a broken ankle, and I'm in a wheelchair because you can't use crutches without two hands. That was before all of the wonderful advancements in orthopedic assistance gear that exists now. Those scooters, they're a beautiful thing. In any case, broken arm, broken leg, adolescence, and it kind of continued like that. That I really struggled with my physical health, and by my first year of high school, I had my first hospitalization. I was I was injured. I was sad. I couldn't do any of the things that I wanted to do, and depression just took over. And I was suicidal at that point at 16 for the first time, and my first hospitalization, thank goodness, was in the youth area. So I got out of the hospital. I was doing really well. I was talking about what was going on for me, and I stayed on the meds. I went to therapy every week, and I did what they told me to do. And I was numb, really. I just went through my days and got through it all, but I was very numb. I had a big social circle. I had all sorts of good things in my life, but I wasn't happy. And then, I'm trying to think. So then I had my first surgery, I think not too long after that. And the long and short of it is it was followed by 4 other surgeries. So 5 wrist surgeries in the next span of 10 years. And going to college now on top of that, away from home. And in my first year of college, I started experiencing new symptoms with my mental health. So yes, I was very depressed and doing my best to stay on top of that, but I started hearing voices. And the voices weren't helpful. It wasn't like it wasn't happy things I was hearing or suggestions for how to do better. It was really negative things and encouragement to hurt myself and things like that. And that was when I was hospitalized for the second time after my freshman year of college. And they diagnosed me with bipolar disorder and added more to the list. And so then I was on an antipsychotic and a mood stabilizer and an antidepressant. And I wasn't even 20 years old yet. But I was told then and there that I was bipolar, that I was going to need to take these medications for the rest of my life, and that it was very likely that the course of all of this illness was only going to get worse. That's what they were telling me. I look back and I'm like, under 20 years old, and they were telling me it was never going to get better. Don't even have hope. So I think I bought into it. I didn't know any better. And I just believed that my mental illness was this thing that was going to be at the forefront of my life eternally. So I spent those next years in complete numbness. I just barreled forward, and there would be extra highs and extra lows, but I just did what I could to stay happy, and more health issues kept popping up. Shortly after college, I moved back to the Twin. I'm originally from Minnesota. I forgot to say that part. Very, very cold, dark place, which did not contribute to my overall mental health. So when I moved back there, I got an incredible job. I was running an after-school program and a summer camp in the community. And while I wasn't that happy, I was brought joy by the kids and by knowing that I had an opportunity to show them that there were tools to use. that like even if things weren't good, there were all these tools available to them to release the anger, to release the emotion. And at that point, I didn't know that movement was it. I still didn't know that that was my thing. Um, so I continued forward, and supporting these kids was what brought me joy. And I then was in a horrible car accident, and I was almost killed. This was in 2007 while running the summer camp. Um, and what came of that, besides not being able to walk for a year and a traumatic brain injury, was my first attempt at going off meds. I said to my doctor, well, if if this shook up my brain so much, maybe it fixed whatever you think is wrong, and maybe this is my chance. So I tried to get off of the meds, of course, weaning very slowly and dealing with symptoms, but really hopeful that this could be it. This brain injury could be a blessing in disguise. The car accident was indeed a blessing in disguise, but not quite in that way. And I ended up back on the medication. I became extremely depressed. This is a picture of me then, um, smiling at the birth of my first nephew, but overall there wasn't much keeping me going then except for kids and really my job. I became my job. That was my life. And that was my source of happiness. Um, and I've skipped a lot of details in here. In the midst of this, there were so many different things that happened. From I got engaged, I broke off my engagement, and then I I had my last wrist surgery. I fast forwarded to final wrist surgery, and I was put on disability because I couldn't be near the kids during this time. It was too dangerous. If one of them bumped me, there were pins sticking out of my arm. It wasn't safe. So it started as 3 months of disability. So I couldn't go to my happy place, which was work. I couldn't be around kids, and I couldn't do much of anything. And I decided that I needed to create some structure in my life because I knew community and structure were always really important. And I found this local coffee shop. And I would go there and get coffee and do a crossword puzzle in the morning, just so that I knew what I was doing when I started my day. And at that coffee shop, I found community. I found another woman who had a traumatic brain injury and was dealing with depression. I found a guy who was on the autism spectrum who loved to do puzzles and take pictures. I found a mom who taught gifted education, who raised and trained therapy dogs. And it was during that time with that community supporting me that I broke off my engagement and knew that I had to figure something out. And sure enough, in this coffee shop shows up this guy. And we would just chat. He had a girlfriend, he had a sick mom, and we became friends. He would sit and do the crossword puzzle with us in the mornings and then take off. And at some point in there, he broke up with his girlfriend. And we became friends, and I supported him in taking care of his mom who had ALS. And we started dating and we fell in love. And his mom passed away. And he said, you know, my mom is the only reason I've been in Minnesota still. I really want to be in Hawaii. And I'm going to take you there. And so in August of 2013, we came to Hawaii for the first time. And it was the first time coming here that I felt again. And I was still medicated, but it was the first time that something really penetrated that shell of medication. And after that trip, he said, all right, so you want to do it? You want to move there with me? And I said, no, I can't move there with you. My whole life is there. It's here in Minnesota. I can't do that. And it's crazy. It sounds like a nice idea, but it's just too far away. And 6 months later, we came back to Hawaii, and the same thing happened. And I was devastated when I had to leave. And I went back to Minnesota, and I was so depressed. And I thought, how is this ever going to change? And I started going to the gym in the mornings. I was finally well enough that I could move my body again. I started going every morning to the gym. And I would find myself on the way home from the gym every morning thinking about Hawaii. And one morning, I was listening to the radio thinking about Hawaii, and I pulled up at the stoplight in front of that coffee shop. And the song Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now was on the radio. And up next to me pulls a Kona Brewing Company truck. I had never before, and I've never since seen one in Minnesota. And that was it. That was the only sign that I needed to make the move. I knew what I needed to do. So I cleaned up my business, and I found a wellness and retreat center here in Hawaii. And I came to volunteer for 3 months as a housekeeper. Unfortunately, during that time, I also, things fell apart with me and that boyfriend because he was still in Minnesota, and I had come here on my own to test the waters and see if I could make the move. But the whole idea behind it was in 2015, that was the first time in my life that I felt that I was physically well enough that I could leave Minnesota and be away from doctors and try something new. My prescriptions could get here. I could keep taking the meds, what have you. So I got here, and I started seeing the synchronicity like I had seen in that truck. And I started connecting with nature. And I wasn't exercising hardly at all. But I was connected to nature, and slowly but surely I became happy and happier and happier. And a friend of mine at the retreat center said, I know you think that you have this bipolar disorder thing. She said, I don't think you do. She said, it's up to you to figure that out. But I'm telling you, I really think that there's a possibility that this is the circumstances you were in and something different could be. And it started the wheels turning in my brain that I could make a change. And I started weaning off of the medications I'd been on forever. And I did it 5 milligrams at a time with the antidepressants because, as anybody who's taken them knows, they're horrible, horrible medications to get off of. They're extremely addictive. The zaps that you get when you move your eyes, all of it, it's just, it's awful. So I weaned off 5 milligrams at a time, and I found plant medicines to support my wellness, when anxiety would spike, etc. And slowly but surely over the course of a full year, I weaned off of those medications. And at the end of that year, I was still having side effects, but I felt pretty good. And then hit this major detox thing. My body, I became very, very ill. And it was all intestinally based. It was all my GI system. I couldn't keep food down. And alongside the physical unrest was, of course, my anxiety started spiking. Am I going to have to go back on the meds? What is this? What am I going to do? Can I, how am I going to function? And I thought, one morning I woke up at 3 a.m. with all of that anxiety, and something inside me said, go move your body. And I walked to the pool, which was very close to where I was living. And I got in that water and I said, just move your body for 15 minutes and see what you feel like after. And so I walked across the pool. I ran across the pool. I danced across the pool. I held a kickboard and kicked across the pool. I did whatever. And at the end of those 15 minutes, I got out of the water and thought, I did it. And I don't feel as bad as I did at the beginning. And so when I woke up the next morning at the same time, I did the same thing. And slowly but surely, I evolved those runs across the pool into laps. And by 2 months later, I was swimming a half a mile every morning. And that anxiety in the morning was gone. I was happy, I was moving, and I was anxiety and depression free. And I was 35 years old. I had been on those medications since I was 14. So it it was very clear to me that what I needed wasn't pills or any of that. What I needed was to move my body and to allow energy to flow through me, energy that I hadn't felt in a body that I hadn't really felt for 20 years. So that began a process of figuring out what else I needed to help, because while I was feeling happy and healthy, I was having serious digestive problems. And I think a little known fact is that antidepressants, SSRIs in particular, they don't just numb your mental health symptoms, they numb your gut. I mean, as a kid, I was really sensitive to food, but I got on all those meds and magically we thought it was just anxiety that was causing the digestive symptoms. No, it's actually my body didn't like certain foods. And it was the energetics of those foods, and it continues to be. And that's something that I really focus on. So ultimately, what I found with swimming was that it wasn't just moving, it's connecting my breath with the movement. And that connection was so disconnected. I was so disembodied for all of those years that I had no idea. And it just became a process of trial and error of what do I need to feel good. So I started acupuncture, I started all these things, and I was taking such good care of myself for the first time in my entire life, learning that self-care was not selfish, that taking time for me was actually a very healthy thing to do. And I started meditating, and I thought I had it all figured out. And then the earth beneath me literally started shaking. And that was May of 2018. It was like, okay, you think you got it all figured out? We're going to shake it up again. And I was still living and working at the retreat center, still swimming in that pool every morning. And on May 4th, 2018, we had a series, a 5.6, followed by a 6.9, followed by 3 miles up, the earth breaking open and lava started pouring out of it. And we were inundated by toxic gases and sulfur dioxide. And I had to leave my home and my job and that pool, and the retreat center shut down completely. And here I was in this land where I had only been in a retreat center, and I had to either go back to Minnesota or create a new life for myself. And even just to get to a place where I could make that decision, the way that I did it was leaning into my movement practice. That was the number one tool that was keeping me sane and helping me make decisions and helping me be my best self. So it was at that point that I became connected with a high school acquaintance who shared with me. She was fitness and nutrition coaching online, and she said, try this. And I logged into her streaming service and I started working out. And after that, I think it took me over a year of doing that before I realized that this is my purpose, moving my body, sharing movement, sharing that movement can heal your mental health. You don't need a pile of pills, and some people do. There are all different types of people. Medication does work for some people and is helpful for some people, and I would never I'll be the last to shame anybody for using medication. Different things work for everybody. But what I found was that I did not need pills. Talk therapy is helpful, yes, but movement is better medication than anything. So as I shared, connecting the breath and the body together is ultimately what made the biggest difference for me. And so I wanted to help everybody here get a little connected after a long day of listening and sharing and feeling. I thought we could all take a few minutes, sorry, 1 second, to connect our bodies and our breath together. And just got to get the hair tied up here so that I can lead through this. But if hopefully you all brought yoga mats and you have, oh good, you're tying up your hair too. Hopefully you all have a place where you can move your body and you can still see and hear me back here. Is that right? Okay. So I'm going to invite you all to find the front of your yoga mat, the top as we call it, and put your heels and your toes together. Just ground into the earth for a second. Feel your feet beneath you. Feel the ground or the earth or that mat beneath you. Feel it supporting you. And we're just going to do some very basic movements and inhale, exhale. If there's anything that doesn't feel good to your body, I encourage you to do what works for you. We're just going to start by inhaling our arms up above our heads. Bring our hands together and exhale. Bring them down to your heart center. Inhale, bring them out in front of you and connect your hands, bringing your elbows together. Round your back just a little bit. And exhale, bring your arms out. Inhale, those arms above your head again. And exhale them down to your heart center. Inhale, open up. And exhale, fold forward, leading with your heart. Exhale as you fold down. Inhale, bring your hands to your shins, flat back, and exhale, just hang down. And on your next inhale, come back up, hands to your shins. And exhale here, I invite you to just hang for a minute. Breathe how it feels good to you. Focus your eyes between your knees. We're going to inhale and exhale together one more time. Breathe in. And exhale, put your hands down to the ground and step back 1 foot at a time. Lower your body down to the floor. And then let's inhale, open up our chest and our heart center. Exhale, come back down. Inhale again, keeping your back legs active. Exhale. And we're going to inhale one more time. And on your exhale, curl your toes underneath. We're going to transition to a downward dog. Shoot your hips up. And just lower your heels. Alternate one at a time. Inhale and exhale as you alternate. Really stretching out hamstrings and your calves. And do an inhale or exhale with each movement. And then we're going to bring our right leg forward into a lunge. And on your next inhale, reach your right arm up to the ceiling Exhale. Inhale and exhale. And do one more breath on your own before you bring your hands back to the mat and transition back to downward dog. And on your next inhale, lunge forward with the left foot. Exhale there, feel that stretch opening up through your hips. And inhale your left arm up to the ceiling, focusing your eye gaze on your fingertips. Take a few breaths here, feeling that rotation, that twist. On your next exhale, bring your hand back down, transition back to downward dog. Step or jump your feet forward and inhale, palms to shins. Exhale, hang in that forward fold for a minute. And on every exhale, allow a little more tension to release from your body. And on the next inhale, let's slowly rise back up, one vertebrae at a time. Raise your hands above your head and exhale them back down to your heart center. And now I was just going to say, Dina, tell me how I am on timing.
I think you're okay because we had a little after party thing going. So we'll eat into that. So don't worry about it. Another 10 minutes or so, 15. What do you need?
I was going to say 5 to 10 is fine.
Yeah.
I was going to do a few rounds of this. I just wanted to make sure that I have time to do that.
I would love for you to do that. Anyone who wants to stick on and stay around, that's cool, because this is making me feel very good right now. Take all the time you need.
Perfect. Thank you for the check-in.
Of course.
All right, so we're gonna go through that whole thing 2 more times, kind of a traditional modified sun salutation. So we're gonna inhale our hands back up overhead, bring our hands together. Exhale, bring them back to your heart. Inhale, bring them out in front of us again. Exhale, open them back up. And now inhale, reach one arm overhead and lean to one side. Exhale back to center. Inhale up the other way, really stretching that side body. Exhale back to center. Inhale those arms back together, rounding the shoulders. And then exhale, open it all back up. And then inhale, and on the exhale, forward, fold forward, leading with your heart center again. And then just hang again for a second. On the inhale, if you want to, you can put your hands back to your shins. And exhale, fold forward, letting go. And on your next exhale, step back 1 foot at a time, lowering your chest to the floor. Inhale, open up your heart and your chest. Exhale, release. Inhale. And one more time. And on the exhale, curl those toes under. Again, we're going to transition back to downward dog. And again, just walk the dog. Put one heel to the floor at a time as you continue to reach your hips for the ceiling. And on your next inhale, bring that right leg forward. Exhale, and then inhale that right arm up to the ceiling, really reach. Focusing your gaze on those fingertips. And on your next exhale, bring that hand back down to the floor, transition to downward dog. And then on the next inhale, bring that left leg into a lunge. Exhale here, really feeling those hips open up. And on your next inhale, raise that left arm up to the ceiling, reach. And take a few breaths here. On your next exhale, bring that hand back down to the floor, transition back to downward dog. Step or jump your feet forward. Inhale to flat back, hands to shins. Exhale, release. And again, I invite you to hang here for a second. Eye gaze should be between your knees. Take a few breaths here. And on your next inhale, at your own pace, slowly, one vertebrae at a time, bring your hands up again overhead. Exhale. Bring them down. Inhale them out in front of you. Bring those hands and elbows together, rounding the shoulders. And then exhale, open it all up. Feel your heart opening. We're going to stay here for a second. And feel that expansion in your heart as you stand here. Breathing into it. And allow your arms to come back to your sides. And then inhale them again overhead. Exhale down to heart center. Inhale them out in front of us one more time. Exhale, open up. Gonna go side to side one more time, giving good stretch to those sides. Open up. Take an inhale here, and then fold forward on your exhale. Inhale, palms to shins. Exhale, fold forward. Feel how much more length there is in your body than there was the first time we did this. Inhale, palms to shins. Exhale, hang. Just enjoy that extra space you've created. Let a little more tension release with every exhale. And when you're ready, on the next exhale, step back 1 foot at a time. Your palms under your shoulders and slowly lower yourself to the ground. Inhale, rise and open up that chest, heart center. Exhale, release. Inhale, release. And then do one more on your own time and your own breath. And on the exhale, curl those toes under and transition back to downward dog. Hopefully you can feel extra length here as you're walking the dog. Feel those hamstrings loosening. And on the next inhale, bring that right leg up into a lunge. Inhale that arm overhead. And just take a couple deep breaths. Appreciating the body's ability to make space. And on your next exhale, bring that hand back down to the floor. Transition to downward dog. And then inhale that left foot forward. Ooh, open up those hips. And inhale that left hand back up to the ceiling. On the next exhale, bring it back down. Transition to downward dog. Jump or step your feet forward. Palms to shins on the inhale. Exhale, fold forward. We're just going to hang here for one more minute. I encourage you to grab your elbows and just hang. And if you feel any areas of tension, breathe into those areas. Allow your breath to enter and expand those parts. And on the next inhale, I invite you to rise one vertebrae at a time. Bring your hands together over your head, and exhale them down to heart center. And take a couple of deep breaths here. Thanking your body, thanking your breath, thanking yourself for showing up. And I'm just going to come up here and thank you all, whoever's still here, might just be a few of us. Thank you for moving with me. And it's an absolute pleasure to have the opportunity to move with others right now. I did want to give the opportunity, one, to answer any questions that you all might have. And also to say, you know, I'll.
Dina, you're muted.
No. Oh.
We lost her. She's going to call back in, hopefully. I think we just lost her. I wanted to
do great way to end. Nice
Holy
stretch.
cow. Wait, hold on. Let me tell. I think when she took her headphone off, she shut us. She
Oh.
shut us out. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Hold on. She's coming back. Yeah, because I think she went like this and she must have disconnected accidentally. Holy cow. That was great. We started off with like a complete sweat session with Amber. And we ended at such a, and Juanita, you've been here this whole entire time. So thank you for going through all of this too. A lot of you have been here this whole entire time. Here she comes. I was going to say, I want to make sure she's still here. Yay. There you are.
The problem, one of the very few problems with living in rural East Hawaii is limited bandwidth.
I thought maybe when you took your headset off, it like accidentally shut you out. Oh my gosh, we were just saying how wonderful it was to end the day on this, but you were going to say something before you disconnected.
Thank you. I'm so glad. I just feel like breathing and moving is such good medicine for all of us. And it doesn't matter if we do it for 30 minutes or if we do it for 2 minutes or for 5 minutes, because it makes a difference. Even 5 minutes of movement a day releases endorphins, can decrease chronic pain. And there are so many benefits to moving our bodies, and mental health, in my opinion, is the best one. And so what I do now is I have the joy of coaching others in moving their bodies and in learning to self-care. And you know, the packages in which we do this are really reasonably priced. And I'm offering a $20 Amazon gift card back to anybody who's interested in working together, anybody who wants to start with self-care and with getting your body moving, no matter where your body is at, there are ways you can move it. And I would love to support anyone who's looking to do that in doing so. So Dina has shown you how you can find me.
Yes, and we'll be including all this information, as I said, in the post-event. I mean, we're going to need a minute to get all this together, but in the post-event email, which will have a thank you note, a post-event survey, all the links to the recorded sessions, and then like our little virtual swag bag where we'll have all this information on there.
Wonderful. Well, I am just so grateful.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Oh man, seriously.
Like, thank you for your bravery in sharing all of that. And just to give you like virtual hugs for having gone through, you know.
I'm coming in.
You know, that couldn't have been easy. I was really touched by that, and I appreciate your strength and vulnerability in sharing that with us.
Thank you.
It's true. Sam, you said in the beginning, I'm nervous about telling this, but you have no idea. I don't know if you saw me like bawling my head off over here. You have no idea how much I felt so stagnant this whole year. I'm going to cry now. And so this has just been such a perfect way to end this. So thank you so, so much. Thank you. And thanks everybody, but thank you specifically, Sam, because that really hit home. Thank you.
Thank you all. I really appreciate you being here and you holding the space and us participating in this together. Hugs. I wish I could hug you right now, Dina.
I'm going to come to Hawaii on the next time.
I look forward to seeing you after your quarantine.
As soon as we're allowed back on planes, I'm coming to Hawaii. Oh man. Well, everybody, on that note, this has been so wild. And I mean, I wanted just a couple of things. I know we're running over time, but some of the things that Sam was sharing, that whole discussion about things that you hear and that you're told that are going to be lasting you a lifetime, or you're never going to be able to change this, or whatever these limiting belief things that are put in your head, whether you put them there yourself or other people put them for you, please disregard them wholeheartedly and do everything you can to rage against the machine. Because if you stay stagnant in that place, you do not understand, I mean, how much potential you have, that even just making a small effort outside of that box to help yourself, but also the effect that it takes on other people too. So by sharing our stories, by denying people who think that, and really that's the case, it's because I believe people have limiting beliefs themselves, and so they don't think if they can't do it, then you can't do it either. But we know better. We know that we can. It's such a woo-woo thing to say, I don't care about that. It's true. I'm living proof of it right now. Look what I just did. Who the hell am I? I'm nobody. Right?
Oh my God,
you're amazing.
Amazing.
I mean, this is why it's got to be a global event, because my goal in life was to work in concentric circles until I took over the planet, and this was my world domination world tour. So take what you've learned here, ingest it. Don't F around. Like, don't be like, oh, what a high I'm on, and then tomorrow you go back to old ways. Please ride on this. We're all each other's friends now. You know where to find everybody. I'll be emailing everyone in a week anyway and hunting you down. So whether we've met before, during, or after, please let's be each other's accountability partners. Let's be each other's support systems. I'm telling you, it's a small step, and it makes me feel like we've really touched the corners of the universe right now, and I'm riding high. But I am exhausted. So again, thank you everybody who took a chance on a stranger, who donated money. Unbelievable. We're almost up to $1,000. I cannot even get over this. So thank you so much. And Mental Health America has no clue we're doing this, because you could partner with them and they'll but no, it was like a secret thing. I was like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And so I'm just so pleased. I know my takeaways, I've written down like at least 16 pages worth of notes. So I hope everybody else has come away with a lot of things that make you feel better, if at least just a small bit. Thank you. Yeah, I'm still sticking around. If you guys want to hang out and share and just keep doing virtual hugs, I'm totally fine with that.